Hello and welcome back to the Vital Shift podcast. Today I want to share with you my Vital Shift method for helping perimenopausal women lose 5 or more kilos and keep it off without feeling hungry, exhausted, or like it's a full-time job. I want to be very clear that I'm not offering a cookie cutter, one size fits all, magic bullet solution for losing weight in perimenopause. There is absolutely no such thing. What I'm offering you instead is a lifestyle that you can highly personalize to your situation and to your needs, and one that I hope that you'll sustain through perimenopause and beyond to not only lose the weight, but also improve your health and your longevity. Because I know right now losing the weight feels urgent. Maybe you feel like you've lost control of your body because the same strategies that worked for you in the past aren't working as well anymore. And this is distressing because not only are you dealing with the symptoms of perimenopause, but you also feel like you've lost control of your body size and shape and what you can wear, and that can really feel upsetting. And so I want to help you solve that problem, but I also have a sneaky agenda. And that sneaky agenda is to add more healthy years to your life. Years where you are not reliant on medication because you've developed a chronic lifestyle illness. Years that you can independently get off the toilet and wipe your own butt. Because I don't know about you, but I want to be independent, active, and engaged in my life till the day I die, preferably. All right, so let's crack in. The Vital Shift method is made up of 3 core pillars: lifting, fueling, and sleep. And within each of these 3 pillars, there are 3 components. And I'm going to run through all of these now. So let's start with lifting. Lifting weights becomes really important in perimenopause because as we age, we start to lose muscle fibers. It's not so much about our hormones directly. This happens to men as well. It's just that men start with a higher base of muscle mass, mostly because they've had all that testosterone from teenage years. They're also culturally encouraged to lift weights more than women have been traditionally. And so it seems more pronounced in women than it does in men. And because muscle is metabolically active tissue, when we lose muscle mass, we don't need as many calories to maintain our weight, which means that even if we don't change our lifestyle, we can put on weight and wonder what the heck happened. So within this pillar of lifting, we look at the 3 P's. The first P is protein. The recommended daily intake of protein is 0.8 grams per kilo per day. This is the minimum amount you need to prevent a nutritional deficiency of protein. It's nowhere near enough to thrive. It's your survival line, if you like. The latest studies show that 1.2 grams per kilo per day is the optimum dose to build lean muscle tissue, obviously in combination with resistance training. Just upping your protein is not going to up your muscle mass. So 1.2 for lean muscle mass. Beyond that, you don't really get much of a benefit in terms of growing muscle. The same meta-analysis showed that 1.5 grams per kilo per day was the optimum dose for building strength. And that's what I'm most interested in. Yes, we want to build lean mass. We don't want to bulk up and we don't need to, but we want to replace some of that lean muscle that we've lost through aging, but we want it to be muscle that we can use. We want to be strong so we can get up off the couch, so we can bend down and play with our grandchildren, and so we can do things that we enjoy doing in our life without becoming injured. So with all of that in mind, I recommend 1.5 to 2 grams per kilo per day, because while you won't get any added strength or lean muscle benefits beyond 1.5, protein is very satiating. Having more than 1.5 within reason is not harmful, but what it will do is it will fill you up and it will keep you satisfied. So you're less likely to indulge in some of those foods that aren't really giving you much actual fuel to get through the things you need to do in a day, but they're adding unnecessary calories at a time when you want to lose weight. The second P is progressive strength training. And what I mean by that is that as you get stronger, you need to progress your training so you're still working at the same intensity, even though your body is adapting. Because we need intensity to get stronger. If we lift in an easy to moderate range, we will still get benefits, but we just won't get stronger and we won't build as much lean muscle mass. Now, I want to bust a myth here because if you follow some of the big names in perimenopause, there's been this rhetoric out there for a number of years that you can only get benefits from strength training if you lift heavy. And that is outdated news. It used to be thought that to build strength, you have to lift in the high load, low rep range. So, sort of in that 4 to 6 repetition range, where by the 6th repetition, you haven't got one more lift left in you and you have to rest for 3 minutes before you can go again. Now, that is a really efficient way to hit the intensity that you need to hit. And that is how I tend to lift now because I really enjoy it. And I'm 3 years into my lifting experience. So I have prepared my body for that level of stress. I also have no problem with going to a gym and rocking up to the squat rack and getting the big plates and doing all of that. It took me time to get there. Most of my clients have either never resistance trained or they've had a long break or they've only really lifted dumbbells at home. And I would never suggest they just go and lift heavy right out the bat or ever. Because what the latest studies show is that it's about the intensity, and you can hit the intensity at lower weights with higher reps. So I wouldn't suggest lifting in the 15 to 20 rep zone because it takes a lot of time and it can be very fatiguing. But lifting in that sort of 10 to 12 repetition range, where on the last couple of reps you're feeling fatigued, that is good enough. You will get strong and lean by doing that. And isn't that such a relief to know that you don't have to ever use a squat rack if you don't want to? You can get strong and lean at home with about 2 or 3 sets of dumbbells and a couple of resistance bands. And that's how I train the majority of my clients. And so the third P in my lift pillar is protect. As we get older, our connective tissue, our joints, our ligaments, our tendons, and everything that connects our muscles to the bone and connects them to one another becomes more prone to injury. It's more fragile. And because it doesn't have its own blood supply, your connective tissue takes longer, a lot longer, to adapt to the stress that you're placing on it through resistance training than your muscles. I like to say to my clients that we progress at the rate your connective tissue can handle because your muscles will get strong faster than your connective tissue will be able to keep up. And when I first started getting into resistance training, thankfully I listened to my body. My yoga background helped me with that. But there were times when I was definitely progressing faster than my connective tissue was ready for. My muscles could handle it, but I was getting sore knees, sore shoulders, sore elbows, and that was a sign for me to just step it back a little bit, hold at the same load, hold at the same rep range, and give myself time to adapt. And this is a fine line. It's kind of like the Goldilocks zone that you want to be aiming for, where you're working at a high enough intensity to get the benefits of strength training, but you're not overdoing it, so you end up either exhausted or injured and giving up after 6 weeks. So that's the lift pillar. And obviously what I'm sharing with you are strategies. There's a lot of nuance to this. You need individualization to make it work for you. We have to work with our psychology as well as our body. So all of that requires good quality coaching from someone who knows what they're doing. The second core pillar of the Vital Shift method is to fuel. And this pillar is all about eating in a way where you have the energy you need to not only do your workouts, but also to meet the demands of your day-to-day life. I don't know about you, but life became pretty complex and stressful since I turned 40. I became a mum at 42, which was unexpected, but, an amazing privilege. I also lost my dad when my daughter was only 6 months old, so I had to deal with loss and grief while also looking after a baby. When I was pregnant with my daughter, my mum got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which she slowly got worse and worse over the last sort of 9 years, developed dementia 3 years ago, and actually passed away in November last year. Add to that my relationship with my daughter's father broke down and we separated in 2022. So I'm also a single mum. And I have a 10-year-old, so my child still needs me, and I run a business. So, with all of that, the only way that I can keep my life together is to fuel well. If I was starving and restricting too much and not getting the right mix of macros and energy that I needed, there's just no way that I could manage my life properly. And I'm sure things are similar for you. I'm sure you have similar stresses. You know, you might not have a 10-year-old, but even if you have adult children, I'm sure that they still need your support and you still think about them and worry about them a lot. And so within the fuel pillar, we have the 3 C's. The first C is clarity. And this is all about understanding exactly what your energy requirements are, your calorie requirements for weight loss and for weight maintenance. If you're not clear on that, you don't have the data you need to strategically approach your weight loss journey. Now, obviously, it's about more than calories in and calories out, but the only proven way to lose weight is to create a calorie deficit. Keto, fasting, paleo, vegan, all of those diets cause weight loss because they make it easier for us to create a calorie deficit. And you might have a preference, and that's totally fine as long as you're getting all the nutrients that you need, including fiber, including vitamins and minerals, protein, fats, and so on. But if you want to lose weight, you need to eat less calories than you are expending, and you need to understand that data. The way to do that is to use a calorie calculator. So the Mayo Clinic have a really good one where you put in your age, your gender, your weight, your height, and your activity levels. And it will calculate the number of calories you need in order to maintain your weight. Once you know what you need to maintain your weight, you can deduct 500 calories a day. And if you stick to that and you stick to the activity level that you put in, you should lose around 0.5 kilo a week. This is a sustainable amount of weight loss. Anything more than that and it becomes too stressful for your body and your mind, and it will be much harder to stick with for as long as you need to lose the weight that you want to lose. So once you've calculated your overall calorie requirements, then you can figure out your macronutrient balance, which are your carbohydrates, protein, and fats. And remember, from pillar 1, we want to be taking in 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilo per day. So taking me as an example, I'm 60 kilos, so I would be looking to take in a minimum of 90 grams of protein per day. And so times that by 4 because there's 4 calories per gram of protein, and we have 360 calories that I'm going to be consuming per day from protein alone. And whatever's left over from that, I can decide how I want to allocate that to carbohydrates and fats depending on my goals and what I prefer. I do highly recommend that you get most of your carbohydrates from a range of fruits and vegetables, because then you're getting your carbohydrates along with fiber and other micronutrients that support so many important functions in your body, and they help you feel fuller for longer so you feel less hungry. And then with fats, you want to be looking to healthy sources that are good for your heart and your brain. So thinking about olive oil for sautéing and salad dressings. Avocado oil is a great one because it has a higher burn temperature for shallow frying or roasting. Nuts and seeds are a great source, as is avocado, as is oily fish. The second C is convenience. You want to make this as easy as possible for yourself. And I have found the best way to do that is to plan my meals for the week, create a shopping list, and double up as often as I possibly can. So what does that look like in practice? Well, for me, I have a repertoire of meals and recipes that I know inside out. I no longer have to think about them because I've cooked them so many times. I know they work. I know what ingredients I need. So I just decide what I'm going to have for dinner each night. And quite often I'll double up my dinner quantities. So I'm taking care of lunch the next day and think about breakfast and so on. And then I create my shopping list from there. Sometimes I do some meal prep on a Sunday afternoon. So I've got things like poached chicken breast, some salad, or some roasted vegetables that I can just use for lunch for the next couple of days. I might also make some overnight oats with Greek yogurt, so it's high protein. So for the next 2 or 3 days as well. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, often I have food that I can just reach and grab for those 3 days. And when I'm really organized, I do it again on Wednesday as well. The more you can plan ahead and be prepared, the easier it's going to be for you to make the better choices because you won't be suffering from decision fatigue. One of the really important things that I do in my program with my clients is I provide them with meal plans. I provide them with easy go-to recipes that they can just access within the app. And from there, they can plan their meals for the week and they know exactly how many calories from which macronutrients they're getting. And it just makes it so much easier and more sustainable. And the third C in the fuel pillar is confidence. You want to be confident that you're not overshooting or undershooting your calorie and macro goals. And the only way to do that is to track what you're eating for a period of time, long enough for you to know just intuitively how much, for example, 100 grams of poached chicken is by looking at it. Once you've got that, then it becomes so much easier not to overshoot or undershoot on your nutrition. And this is so key to being able to lose weight without feeling hungry or exhausted, because if you underdo it, in my experience, you're going to reach a point where your body will say, hey, I'm starving, I need whatever you can get your hands on. And that's when we tend to overindulge. And the third core pillar of my Vital Shift method is sleep. I don't know about you, but when my hormones started changing, my sleep got really hard. I found myself waking up at 3 a.m., feeling anxious, often unable to go back to sleep, and limping through the day feeling like a zombie. I had all these compensatory behaviors to deal with my exhaustion. Firstly, I would drink buckets of coffee just to wake myself up and get going for the day. More often than not, I'd have coffee again in the afternoon, which was perpetuating the poor sleep problem. I was drinking more alcohol because I was just so exhausted and feeling so terrible. I was reaching for anything that could help me feel better. But of course, alcohol also disrupts those deeper sleep stages. And so I was just stuck in this vicious cycle. Not only that, but I found it really hard to stay consistent with my strength training and my cardio because I was so tired all the time. And I wasn't getting stronger because my body didn't have a chance to recover and adapt. And it was also much harder to fuel properly because I just wanted the quick fix all the time. And it was much easier to just overindulge in the wrong things in an effort to try and boost my energy. So it wasn't until I really addressed my sleep issues that the weight came off and stayed off. And that has been such an incredible turning point for me because not only is it great that I lost the weight and I've kept it off, but I just feel so much better. My well-being is better. My mood is better. Now, I want to be really real here. Sleep is still the pillar that I struggle with the most. I'm a busy woman, I have a lot going on, and it's easy for me to try and cut corners on sleep. But I'm doing way better, and more often than not now, I do sleep really well and I have the energy I need to achieve the things that I want to achieve in a day. And within the sleep pillar, we have the 3 S's. The first S is substances. And what I'm really talking about here is caffeine and alcohol. Many of the women I work with are overusing caffeine to get themselves going in the morning, and then they're using alcohol to help themselves unwind at the end of the day. When you're not getting good quality sleep on a regular basis, your body will throw out more stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol to help you get through the day. And it creates that tired, wired feeling. And yes, it does help you kind of meet the demands of your day, But what happens is that when your cortisol would ordinarily be coming down at night to help you relax and unwind, it stays elevated when we're in this chronic lack of sleep place. And so that makes it really hard to switch off your brain at the end of the day so you can relax and get a good night's sleep. And that's where we tend to lean on alcohol to help us access that feeling of relaxation that we're craving. The problem with alcohol is that it also disrupts our sleep architecture, meaning that even if we do sleep well, we're not getting those deeper levels of sleep that we need to be truly restored. And so part of the work that I do with my clients when needed is I help them break their reliance on these substances and get them out of that vicious cycle so they can improve their sleep. The second S is screens. Exposing yourself to blue light at night is switching off your melatonin production. Your circadian clock thinks it's much earlier in the day than it actually is, and so that drive for sleep gets delayed. Now, you can hack this by changing that light to more of a red light, but it's still too much light and stimulation for your brain right before bed. So I recommend getting off all screens, ideally an hour, but at minimum half an hour before you want to be asleep. And then implement a wind down routine by doing things that help you down regulate your nervous system and let your body know it's time for bed. And the third S is stress. We want to make sure we're getting the right amount of stress across all aspects of our life so that we're not stuck in a place of feeling chronically stressed. I'm talking about physiological stress from exercise, for example, psychosocial stress, so difficulties in relationships, that kind of thing, environmental stress, are we being exposed to pollutants and so on, and even spiritual stress. If we're having an identity crisis or we have no meaning in our life, that can add to our stress load. And it's the overall stress load that's important here. It's very rarely one specific thing that is causing a toxic level of stress. We are designed to handle stress. We're designed to handle even very high levels of stress. Just think about lifting weights, for example. You're exposing yourself voluntarily to a physiological stressor that makes your body adapt and get stronger. So that's a positive stress, but you can only adapt and get stronger if you're recovering from the stressor. If your life is so full of stress across all of these dimensions that you're not able to wind down, relax, sleep, and recover, that's when we start to break down. And that's when our sleep can be affected and we're in this vicious cycle again. So it's really important that we titrate our stress levels to our capacity to adapt and our capacity to recover. And I like to teach really simple, accessible stress management tools, breathing techniques you can use throughout the day to balance your nervous system and support yourself so that at the end of the day, it's easier to unwind and get a good night's sleep. Okay, so that's the overview of my vital shift method to lift, to fuel, and to sleep. And as I mentioned at the beginning, these strategies are designed to help you build a lifestyle you love that's going to help you lose weight, keep it off, and optimize your health and longevity beyond perimenopause. In future weeks, I'm going to dive into some of the nuances around each of the components within my system. Today was really just to provide you with an overview of how I approach helping perimenopausal women lose 5+ kilos and keep it off without feeling hungry, exhausted, or like it's a full-time job. And I've also created a PDF that provides an overview of the Vital Shift method. If you want to download that, I will put a link in the show notes for you. And as part of downloading that PDF, you get a series of emails from me that dive into some of the nuances as well. Thank you so much for listening. And if you like what I shared today, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. Till next time, take care.